Porter Williams.
Speaker, I rise to take a call on this third reading of the Health Protection Amendment Bill, and I guess I have the prime spot of the last call on a Thursday afternoon, so I better, yes, highly sought after. So, Mr Speaker, even though I had the pleasure of speaking on the first reading of this bill, I was not a member of the Health Select Committee that deliberated the bill at committee stages, but I do want to commend the members of the Health Select Committee and the officials for the passage of the bill and the amendments that were made during the course of that discussion at Select Committee. And the bill returns to us really concentrating on two main areas. The first is around infectious diseases and notifiable diseases, and of course the second, which we've had much discussion on, with regards to sunbeds which are used for cosmetic purpose. But one of the elements that I don't think has been discussed fully throughout this third reading that I want to pay particular attention to is that the bill returned to the House with the inclusion of key principles, some key principles as part of Part 3A, Subpart 1. And I want to discuss some of those key principles. The first one being paramountcy. This principle ensures that the protection of public health is given paramountcy when you are dealing in matters where there are infectious or notifiable diseases at hand. So what that says is that the public health interest must be the most important when dealing with issues of infectious and notifiable diseases. The second key principle is that of respect, where performing any duties, the dignity of the individuals must be protected. Because often we're talking about fairly sensitive areas and sensitive discussions, and it ensures that when we're having those discussions that we treat that person with the utmost dignity. There have been cases where people with certain notifiable diseases, particularly if they're sexually transmitted diseases, may be treated with some disrespect. The third principle is that the individual be given an opportunity to comply voluntarily before any compulsion is placed upon that person. And I think that's really important, that we give people every opportunity to comply with medical officers where the issue of public health is at risk. Where individuals take responsibility for their own health is principle number 4. And number 5 is that consideration is given when an individual has taken the opportunity to do what they can to minimise risk, but they may still be at risk of being contagious or at risk to the public, but they have done everything that they can in order to minimise risk. That the individuals be fully informed. The principle of informed consent is one that is well traversed across the health sector, and it's important that in this bill that it continues to be an important part of the discussion. The principle of proportionality, which is with regards to minimising or preventing health risk. And also the principle of applying least restrictive measures, which means you ensure that you provide public health, public safety, but you do it with using the least restrictive measures. So, for example, you wouldn't go to the extreme of ensuring somebody was quarantined if all they really needed was to ensure that if they were infectious, that perhaps they wore a mask and gloves. And the final principle is that when measures are no longer necessarily, that they discontinue as soon as possible. Now that was part of Part 3A, that was Subpart 1. There are other two parts within that piece of legislation, Subpart 2, which look at the directions given by and to the medical officer, and subpart 3, which was about public health orders. But in my final time, Mr. Speaker, I do want to refer back to the issue that has been considered quite a bit in this House in this third reading, and that is the matter of sunbeds. The sunbeds, the evidence was heard that we should have been looking at banning sunbeds altogether, and I concur with my colleague, the Honourable Annette King, and on that note, Mr. Speaker, I commend the bill to the House.
Jackie Dean.